G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. Today we are going to be continuing to have a look at some more past Hero of the Months. Specifically though, we are going to look at the 5-star legendary purple heroine, Umbra, the Nocturnal Huntress. So Umbra was first introduced to the game in October 2020 as the featured Hero of the Month. Interestingly, Umbra was the first of the new Heroes of the Month added. There was a period where there was just 5 that were done on recycle or repeat, and Umbra was the first one to be added after those recycling ones, so a little bit unique. So today though, Umbra is available only for summons from the the Manor of Legends portal, which we saw, and it comes around once every 4 weeks. This portal does, however, have some pretty horrendous odds to summon the heroes, which I can demonstrate right now. So if we take a look at the portal odds, we do have a 1% chance to get a featured Hero of the Month, and only a 0.9% chance to get an unfeatured hero. So it sounds pretty good, but when you put it in perspective of doing 100 summons in this portal, you've got a 63% chance to get either of the 2 featured heroes. So in this case, it's either Umbra or Aviana. You then have a 59.5% probability of getting one of the many unfeatured heroes. If you drop that down and suddenly you're targeting a specific Hero of the Month, in those same 100 summons, you have a 39.4% probability of getting specifically Umbra. Or if you're going for a specific non-featured hero, say we go for Sarge here, that is only a 2.7% probability of summoning him from 100 summons, right? Those are incredibly poor odds, and those odds will only diminish further as more and more heroes are added to this portal. Currently, there are 33 unfeatured heroes. That number just goes up and up each month as more Heroes of the Month are added to the portal. So yeah, not the greatest portal in terms of the summonable odds. If we do flip out of the portal and take a quick look in my roster, we can take a look at our artwork. So I really like Umbra's artwork. I think it's kind of quirky and neat. You know, it was a very different hero added to the game. So yeah, we've got some of those gothic kind of tropes that have been played on. So, you know, she's got the old parasol, which has got little skulls on the end pieces, some more skulls, dressed all in black, the odd shattering of purple, and then, yeah, obviously got a weapon in there. But I'm not sure if you really need the parasol at night if you're a Nocturnal Huntress, but I suppose it's all about the vibe more than any practicality. So, yeah, that's Umbra's artwork. Continuing to have a look at her cards, so normally I would discuss the Hero of the Month's, their family bonus at this point of the review, but being a Hero of the Month, Umbra has no family bonus. Maybe they're going to add one later on down the track, but at this stage, at the time of this review, there is no family bonus. In terms of her stats specifically, Umbra comes in with 744 attack, 670 defense, and 1292 HP. So overall, she does have quite a low stat line, coming in at only 683 power. This is a function of just being literally the 6th Hero of the Month ever added to the game. In these stats though specifically, there is a skewing that goes from her defense stat towards her attack stat. The HP stat is roughly middle of the road for a hero of this age. Her charge speed is set to 43, which is average speed and requires 11 tiles to charge, or 6 ghosted tiles. It is worth noting that 43 is literally the first notch in the 11 tiles to charge bracket. To get a speed break, you do need to go to +7, which you can do using the 5-star Inksplosion B90, which gives you a +9 speed improvement. You can also do it if you with the +6 Perlascale Convex weapon, but to do it you need to combine the 2% charge generation node at +8 on her talent tree. On the topic of her talent tree, Umbra is a member of the Recon class, which grants her the chance to evade incoming damage from special skills and gain a bonus 20% charge for each successful evasion. I do really like this class perk as it does offer a discrete chance to avoid damage coming in. It is calculated separately from the dodge bonuses in play. The downside though is that it only evades the damage component of skills, so you still get any status ailments or any other effects that are attached to the special skill. It's kind of like the inverse of the support talent, so Recon you evade damage but take ailments, support you take the damage but withstand the ailments. By way of a specific emblem path, I personally would go an attack path for her. I don't see her very much as a defensive hero, so I don't see too much need to enhance her defense stat. The only reason you do it is if you are wanting additional survival from her. Me personally, though, I prefer to make my heroes go bang, so I would go an attack path. So ignore the fact that this is Bunny Hop, pretend that it is Umbra with me, so my recommendation is to go an attack path. So we're picking up the attack node at each turn. I personally don't bother with this speed node because I don't have any of the Pearl Scale Convexes. I only have the B90s evolved. But if you are in the case where you don't have a B90 evolved, you might want to pick up that speed node with the Pearl Scale Convex, but otherwise we're still continuing to get all the attack nodes we possibly can. I would probably stop at node 18 there. I don't really see any need to go on to the plus 19 or plus 20 nodes. They're 19 maybe with a defense bonus, but it is fairly costly for that defense bonus. But otherwise, that is the path that I would be following for Umbra. So feel free to pause it and snip it if you need. But yeah, 19 and 20, probably not so useful. And the speed node has a question mark against it because it's only if you need it for her specific single break. Back to the portal and we can have a look at her special skill. So her special skill is titled Ill Omen, and at level 10 skill and 43 charge speed, it will deal 405% damage to the target. The target will then have a miscast ailment applied to them for 3 turns, which grants a 36% chance that when using their special skill, they will target an ally member with their skill rather than an enemy hero. It also applies a minus 144 defense ailment to the target for 3 turns. So a couple little interesting things going on there, but let's start with the damage component of her skill first. So as always, damage is difficult to calculate consistently because there's randomness, there's various stats that feed into it. What we can consistently calculate and compare heroes based on is their attack power, which quite simply is just the calculation that feeds into the damage calc, and it's their attack stat multiplied by the percentage in their skill. It is analogous to the damage that they deal, so you can extrapolate it out that more attack power equals more damage. So in the case of Umbra, we can see that she comes in with an attack power of 3013. If you divide that by the 11 tiles required to charge her skill, we get an attack power per tile of 274, which, I'll be honest, it's not the greatest damage output. It does come in ranked 9 of the available 17 purple snipers, which is still pretty good when you consider her, like, literally she is the second oldest purple hero of the month in the game. So she's done really well in terms of staying viable as a damage dealer. Yeah, it's not the greatest, it's also not the worst, but yeah, 9 of 17 is pretty respectable. It's about the midway point, realistically, in the game. You can see there a number of the other options in terms of damage output that are both better and worse than her. So yeah, that might give you a little bit of comparison in terms of Umbra's comparative or relative damage output to some of the newer heroes. Moving on from the damage to what I consider to be personally the highlight of her skill, or at least it's the most interesting part of her skill, which is that second line, which reads, quote, "The target gets a 36% chance to target their allies when using an offensive special skill for 3 turns." The really short explanation of this is that it behaves a lot like Confusion, I guess, from Pokemon, where essentially it applies a 36% chance that the affected hero is not going to shoot an enemy hero with their skill. Instead, they're going to shoot either themselves or a random ally with their skill. So the term offensive special skill, I mean, it is a little bit interesting, the wording, but essentially it's applying to any skills which have that would normally affect the enemy. It's not solely linked to damage dealing skills. It does extend to things like charge cutting and dispels and that sort of thing. But I mean, predominant one is obviously damage dealing things. So 3 interesting notes with this skill. So number 1, in the event of a misfire, it executes the full skill against the hero's teammate. It's not a partial execution. It's not that, you know, you have to roll for each individual part of their skill. No, it's an entire execution of their special skill against a randomly selected team member instead of the enemy. The second thing to note is that this skill is completely unique. There is no other hero in the game who actually has this effect as part of their special skill. The closest that it comes is on Fiddle's passive stack, but it is only related to an ailment miscast, where Umbra is instead a total skill miscast. Fiddle's only is the ailments, whereas Umbra includes damage, ailments, and any other negative effects such as charge cuts or anything like that. The third thing to note is that it technically isn't classed as charge control effect, it is classed just as an ailment, which means that it goes through effects like what you have on Vasquez or Sarge. It is an ailment, it can be blocked in any of those other ways, so you can block it, resist it, remove it in the usual fashions, but yeah, it's not a hugely consequential thing. I just thought it was quite interesting that even though this affects special skills, it's not classed as a charge or a special skill modifying effect, which I thought was quite interesting. So yeah, very effective, very interesting skill, because yeah, as I said, it affects or it executes the entire skill. So you can use it to misdirect a DOA 5 hitter to target the entire enemy team. You can misdirect a hero that would put insanity out on your team, and it can misdirect and fire back on their own team, and suddenly they're getting the insanity cut ailment. So yeah, quite interesting. The final part of her skill is the application of a defense debuff to the target for 3 turns. Unfortunately, this debuff is the static number type. It is only minus 144 defense. At base skills, this comes in barely over 20% of Umbra's defense stat, which we already know is quite low in the scheme of things. When you start factoring in things like weapon effects and emblems and all of that, it can drop as far as being only 15% of Umbra's in-battle defense stat. If we take that against a more modern hero with a more modern defense stat, it becomes even lower. So if we take the example of Ruby, she is the newest hero added to the game at the time of this recording. If you have Ruby at plus 20 emblems equipped with the Dark Flame Talon, which is a dodge gun, she comes in with a massive 1160 defense. So in that one, Umbra's defense debuff is just over 10% of her total defense stat. Comparatively, if you look at someone like Sato or Ghost, they can give up to a minus 54% debuff. So it really highlights how poor these static ailments actually are. And Umbra's not the only hero that's a victim of this. There's a lot of, it's mostly the older heroes that are victimized by this. But yeah, just percentage-based debuffs and buffs are so much better than the static version. So yeah, a bit of a downer to end on, but oh well. So overall, I do kind of actually like Umbra. Yes, her damage output, it's not the greatest. Her defense ailment, it's downright terrible, but that misfire effect can be so powerful when it procs. It literally turns an enemy's hero skill on their allies. So consider scenarios like you target Sidestep and make her target her allies with that charge control ailment. Or another example, Fiddle or Syntax. They are then putting the insanity ailment on their unsuspecting allies. You know, Fiddle puts 1 insanity out. Syntax would put 3 instances of insanity out on an ally member. So, yeah, I think Umbra is an incredibly unique hero. She is incredibly niche as well because there is no one like her, and she is actually really fun to use. Because there's nothing that is funnier that I find in this entire game than watching a hero cast their special skill but have it just land on their ally members. It's prime. I love it. The other thing that I should mention with Umbra is that places where special skills deal out a lot of the damage is where she really shines with this misfire effect. So another example is on War Machines. If you can redirect a War Machine's damage and its, burn or poison ailment back onto itself, it can be hugely beneficial to your team surviving a War Machine fight. So anyway, Umbra is a lot better than I think her stats and her age imply. So for her grading, I am going to give her a B- for War and Raid attacks. I'd love to give her higher, but the fact is that her defense debuffs is just trash and her stats aren't the greatest anymore. For War Machines, I'm also going to give her a B- because as I highlighted, turning that War Machine special skill back on itself is massive in terms of your team's survival in those fights. Eventing, I'm only going to give her a C. That's because she's only effective in the boss wave, and even then it's not hugely impacting. For raid and war defenses, unfortunately, she can't get much more than a D or a D+. So she can have a D+, and that's mostly because her stats are just poor. They don't lend her to being a defensive hero. That 670 defense stat is not great. Even though her miscast tech can still be quite powerful, I just don't see her as being a defending hero. If you do have to put her in your defense team, I would very much suggest putting her in a wing or a flank position if you have to put her in there. In the 3 tournament settings, so in Bloody Battles, I'm going to give her a B- for attack and a C- for defense. For buff boosters, I'm going to give her a B- for attack and a D+ for defense. And for charged attack, I'm going to give her a B+ for attack and a C grade for defense. And that's because she does get a considerable charge improvement going from 43 up to 65. So overall for Umbra's grading, that comes in at getting a B- for her attack grade and a C- for her defense grade. And that concludes the content for this review of Umbra. As always, these are just my personal opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback, so if you have something you'd like to add, please jump down to the comments section of the video and leave me a note. I love reading them and I try to respond as much as I can. As always, if you found this video to be useful and good and all of that, feel free to like it, subscribe to my channel and everything, but most importantly, share the video around, because chances are, if you found this content to be useful for yourself, it's also going to be useful to the other people you play with as well. Cheers once again for joining me and tuning in for this review. I do hope I will see you again soon, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!